Hey, hi everyone. Hi, good morning. Hi Sonal, hi Jay. While adding a foreign key, do you have need to add it to both parent and child? We add foreign key constraint only to child table, Jay. Hi Abhay, hi Melaku, Rahul, Harsha, Ramya, Fatima, James, Ram, Vishnu, Divya, Sirisha, Yogesh, Adam. Hi everyone. Okay, so nice to see you all. Missed the last call. Okay, so no problem. You can watch the recording. Hi. Okay, so we have 53 people and it's almost time. So I think I'll just give 2 minutes for others to join and then I'm going to start. Okay. So in these 2 minutes, is there any question that you want to ask me about anything that we have covered so far in the class? Okay, so I see some new people have joined. So if you have recently joined, right, then I would recommend that of course, you can attend the live class. That's good, but also try to go back and watch all the recording from session one. Okay, if you are already familiar with all the basics, not that much required, but I would still say that just go back and watch the recording. And because we start from absolute scratch and then come to like try to cover one recording at a time and then come to the live class. Okay, which kind of function is group by? Is it aggregate type or something else? So group by is not a function. Group by is it's a clause, something similar to the select clause. So we have select, we have from, we have where, order by, limit, group by, having. These are all not functions. These are all we call them like a clause. Okay, so a feature in SQL which kind of does a specific task. Can you use alias name in having? You can use alias name in having. Which okay. In the recording, I can't see the forward option now. Okay, so I saw some messages with issues with the recording, right? I think Sorush already replied saying that he has fixed it. So previously, I think if you had done full screen mode, then you were not able to exit the full screen mode. Also, you were not able to see the forward button, all the other options that you generally have. You were not able to see it, right? But I think Sorush said he already fixed it. So is anyone else still facing the issue? I see uh, Sadinin saying that he's still facing the issue. I'm not sure if anyone else is having the issue or if it is fine. So, Sadinin, if you're still facing the issue, right, can you message in Telegram group because we have Sorush there, and if you're not aware, Sorush and we have Sorush and Silesh both. They both are the co-founders of Lighthall. So, if you message in Telegram, they can immediately take action and fix if there is any bug. Okay. We use group by clause with aggregate function, but group by is not an aggregate by itself. It's just a clause. Where will I find table I just made in PG admin under database? So if you go to the leftmost side, right? Maybe I will show you once I just share my screen. Okay. Um, okay. So Shiva also facing same issue. Can you just message in Telegram, Shiva? Just try to tag Sorush in that because he can immediately take action. So thanks so much. I want to learn more on store procedure, common table. Yeah, okay. So store procedure we will be coming a little later, but common table expression, or we generally call it like the with clause, we will be covering I think next Wednesday. So today I will be okay. So my plan for today is that because we have seen a lot of different basic concepts and we have seen group by clauses yesterday, right? In the last class, right? So today I want to solve some SQL problems. So I have come up with some SQL queries. I'll try to solve them, and we'll try to focus today only on solving some SQL queries because if you have to understand a concept, theoretical knowledge is not going to help you actually. You might it might be helpful maybe to answer some questions, but if you really want to get the knowledge, you need to solve problems. And one more thing, I cannot be solving every single problem. So I as I told you, during this entire course, you might end up we might be I think we will end up crossing 100 queries, but you still need to solve more. Okay, so I have a recommendation. If you whatever concepts you learn, right, I'll tell you two platforms where you can go and practice. Okay, the first platform is go to Stata Scratch. Okay, now Stata Scratch, if you go, you have an option of filtering based on each concept. So let's say we have covered group by, right? So you can filter based on questions or queries related to group by. Okay, you can choose that, then you will get all the questions which are specific to group by concept. Okay, and then you can solve those queries, or you can search for basic operators or functions or etc, whatever you want, and you can solve those queries. So Stata Scratch is pretty good for that. And the best part is, for most of the questions you will also find a solution there. Okay, I don't think so for every question you have a solution, but for most of them you have. So if you are stuck, you can also look at the solution. So definitely try to look into that. The second platform is Lead Code. Lead Code is, I think it's more popular platform, and you have a lot of free questions on Lead Code. Okay, so try to solve all the free questions first, and those two platforms, I think, are pretty good. Many people I know also use Hacker Rank, so you can use Hacker Rank as well. So try to use any one of these three platforms, or try to use all the three platforms. Try to solve the free questions that are available. Try to solve queries, practice them, and don't wait for the end of this course to start practicing. Okay, as soon as you finish a class, try to practice whatever you have learned. Okay, that's the only way you will learn, because without practice it's very difficult to remember everything. Okay, okay, so I'm just going to start now. I will not look at any questions if you have here. If you have any specific question, you can post it in the Q&A tab. I'll try to answer it later on. Okay, so let me share my screen. Scratter, what is Scratter? So the platform that I said was Strata, Scratch, and Lead Code, and Anchor Rank. Okay, so these three platforms. Okay, so let's come back here now. Just quickly, if anyone has created a table in your database, okay, and you want to see the structure of that table, or what constraints it has, then one of the simplest way of doing that is just go to the left hand side here. Here, basically, initially you would see this server, and this basically is all the servers that you have created. So I have only one, that is PostgreSQL 14. Under that, you will see all the databases. So I have created 7 different databases. You choose whichever database that you are interested in. So for example, let's go to sales order database, and here you see all the different objects that have been created by the database itself. We are only interested in this part, that is schemas. Okay, so just click on schemas. Generally by default you would have this public schema. If you have created a new different schema, then you would have that listed here as well. So I'll choose this public, and then here you would see all the different objects. So one of the object here is this tables. Okay, so whatever tables you have created, you will find it here. So in this database, I have created only 3 tables. So let's say I'll go to customers table. Okay, inside the customers table, you can then see what are the columns. If you want to see, you will see, you will find it here. Okay, and what are constraints that are created, that one you will see it here. Okay, so, and then anything else that has been created for that table, you will basically find it here. So this is one of the way of doing it. The other way, as I explained in Telegram group, you can do it in the terminal, going to the PSQL terminal, and then I think putting the command /d. Okay, /d space table name. Okay, so that's about this. Now let's start with today's class. As I told you, we'll be solving some queries, and I want to keep this class very interactive, because uh, I know some of you guys are already familiar with a lot of these concepts, and some of you guys are not that familiar, right? So in order to make it interesting for everyone, I will paste a question here. Okay, and then you can start solving, because I believe that everyone has already installed the database, and I have already shared this particular data set, that is the sales order data set, with you, I think last week itself. So you should have this data set in your system. And this is the question. So try to solve this question on your own. if you find a solution, try to paste your solution here. Okay, whatever, if I come across a solution which I think is pretty good or it is different from my solution, then I'll try to showcase it to everyone. Okay, uh, so in the meantime I will be solving this problem, but if you think you can solve it on your own, you can try to solve it on your own and then share the solution. Okay, can we do that? And I have, I think, a few different queries for today. So I hope we will do that and try to make it interesting. Okay, now the first question is, find the average sales order price based on the deal size. Okay, first of all, the three tables that I have in this data set is select star from customers, and I think it is products, sales order, right? So okay, so I have this find the average sales order price based on the deal size. Now, what is it that I can use to solve this problem? Okay, and what is that but important concept in SQL that I need to use to solve this problem? Because whenever you read a problem, you need to understand, something should pop up in your mind that, oh, this problem can be solved with this particular concept. Okay, so if you get that kind of an idea, then you will be in pretty good state to continue. Okay, so here it's telling find the average sales. Okay, so looks like we need to find an average sales. Whenever we need to find an average of something, it means that we need to use the average function. Average function is basically an aggregate function, and whenever we are using aggregate functions, we generally need to use group by. It's not mandatory to use a group by with an aggregate function, but we may have to. So we'll see whether so we know that we need to use average function. Now next, let's see if this average function needs to be used with a group by or without a group by. Okay, and here they're telling average sales order price, so basically average price. Okay, based on the deal size. Okay, now here they're telling we need to find this average, but we need to find it based on the deal size. Okay, so let's say if this particular line was, or if this was not present, okay, if we had only this much, then we could just tell that we need to find the average price. Okay, so we don't need to basically find this average based on certain fields, right? In this case, we didn't have to use the group by. But since our question is telling that we need to find the average based on the deal size, meaning that for each deal size, we need to find the average price, right? So in this case, I think already couple of, maybe three people have already given the answer. That's good. So in this case, how we need to do is, so I'm just going to say select from where, uh, and then we'll see. Okay, so from what is the table? So we have sales order, right? And what are we interested in finding? We need to find the average. We need to find the average of the sales order price. So what is the price column name? So this is the price each, and this is the sales. Which column should I consider? Should I consider sales or should I consider price each? Sales. Okay. Okay, right. We need to consider sales. And why do we need to consider sales? Because each order, in each order, you might end up buying one or multiple items, right? This price each is the price of each item. But a particular order, in a particular order, you might buy multiple items. So you can see here there are 30 items bought. Okay, each item costs $95. So the total cost of this entire order was 2,871. So we need to consider this sales column, right? So I'm just going to put sales. Okay, and I'm just going to give an alias like, let's say, average sales. Okay, and then what is the filter condition we need to have here? Anyone? Do we need to have a filter condition here? Okay, so right, we don't need a filter condition here because everything they have told us to find the average based on each deal size. So we need to consider all the deal sizes, right? So instead of filter condition, we need to do a group by deal size. So deal size, right? And I think that's all, and we are getting all the values, but it's not very clear which value is corresponding to which deal size, right? So to make it more clear, I can just put the deal size here, and now I can run this. Now it tells me that the total number of small deal that has happened in this current inventory is $2,061. The average large sales have been 8,000, and the average medium sales have been 4,300 something. Right now, this is fine, but you can see there are a lot of decimal points that have been added after each of these values. Uh, let's try to make it a more rounded figure. Okay, so in PostgreSQL, if I had to make a rounded figure, one way of doing that is uh, okay, so I can use the function round, okay, and this round function will work in all the RDBMS. It is common across all the RDBMS, okay. So let's see if this works. So I'm getting an error, and generally, whenever you get an error in the functions, right, it's always important to read the error message, okay. 90% of the time, error message will exactly tell you what the problem is. 10% of the time, the error message may not be that meaningful, okay. So because I saw some messages in Telegram where someone was facing the error, but if you looked at the error message, it was very clear what the problem was. Okay, so always try to make a habit of reading the error message and understanding the problem. Okay, so here they're telling round of this does not exist. Okay, now can anyone tell me what this error means? What does it mean? So one of the uh, very important thing about programming is you need to understand how to read an error message. Okay, because errors will come every day you will face an error. Okay, so why am I getting this error? Can anyone tell me? Data type error. Need to cast or con. Okay, perfect. So Ram is correct. It's data type error because you see here it's telling double precision. Okay, so round of double precision to integer does not exist. Okay, so in this case, what happened was if I look at my sales table is a double precision. Okay, and then this 2 is an integer, right? Here I basically need to convert this into, so in PostgreSQL, when I'm using a round function, I cannot basically provide the first argument as a double precision. I think I can give it like a decimal data type. Okay, so double precision is basically float. Okay, float data type, and I will try to convert this into a decimal data type, and I think the round function will accept decimal to integer. This one. Okay, so let's do one thing. Now there are two ways I can convert a data type value in PostgreSQL. So the first method is what I can do is I can just put this one. So double colon, and then I can just tell decimal. Okay, and now if I run this, now it's working absolutely fine. So you can see that no error, and the after the decimal point, it's basically truncated the value to 2 decimal points. Okay. Now this thing here is basically one way of converting the value from one data type to another. Okay. So whatever this is basically a data type that you need to provide here, and this double colon is basically the symbol that you need to specify so that SQL understands that you're trying to convert whatever result you're getting here, this data type you're trying to convert it into a decimal data type. Okay, so this is one way of doing it, but this particular command does not work in other RDBMS. This is only specific to PostgreSQL. Okay, but let's say if you're using MySQL or Microsoft SQL Server, then what you can do is instead of this, you can use cast. Okay, so I can use cast here also, or I can use cast after the average. I'll try to use cast here. Okay, so cast of this and as decimal. Okay, and now if I run this, I'm getting an error. What is the problem here? So I opened 1, 2, 3. So I missed one parenthesis. Okay, so now let me run this. Okay, so now it's working fine. And this syntax will probably work in MySQL and Microsoft SQL Server also. Oracle, I think, also in Oracle also it should work. So you can try it out. Okay, so what is this cast doing now? Someone in Telegram was, I think, having some confusion like, why are you using cast? Why don't you change the data type of this column in the table itself, right, by using alter? Now there are two different things. Whatever I'm doing here, right, this is, so what is a select statement? Select statement is basically a read statement. You just go to the database and read some data, right? And when I'm presenting a data, I'm converting a particular data type into some other data type. Okay, that's what I'm doing using cast. So this is, as many of you had replied in the Telegram group, it's just a temporary thing. It is only when displaying. Okay, the actual data type of this sales table will still be double precision or float. Okay, only for this particular query I have converted its value from float to a decimal data type. Okay, so this is only for this particular query. Now if I go back to sales, so let's say if I run this now, you can see here now the data type is showing as numeric. Okay, so this data type has basically changed only for this query. But if I go back to my sales order, or let's say I will not even go to my sales, yeah, I will go to my sales order table and look at my sales table. Here it is still showing as double precision. Okay, so whatever you do in your select clause, it does not change the data in your database. It is only for displaying purpose. Okay, so I hope this is clear. Simple query. Just think we have used this function. So we have used the round function whenever you want to truncate some decimal values. Okay, you can do that. And we have used the cast function to convert one data type to another in this particular case. Okay, and this query should work in any other RDBMS. Okay, uh, it was okay. So now, okay, good question from Soraya. Now, previously, right, if you looked at sales table, sales column here, you can see that this is a decimal point, right? And here, when I try to convert it into a decimal data type, it also looks like a decimal point. So for our eyes, it looks the same, right? Whether it's a float data type, whether it's a decimal data type, they both looks the same. Okay, but for PostgreSQL, they are two different things. Okay, the difference in these two data types, I think it's basically depending on the size. Okay, how much size is allowed, and maybe few other characteristics. So this is one thing that you need to remember. Okay, what we understand from our from our perspective might be different from what SQL understands. Okay, so for SQL, double precision is different from a decimal data point data type, but for us it looks like they both are decimal numbers, right? So whenever you get an error, so previously we got an error that in a round function you cannot try to use a double precision and then use an integer, right? So that is why we need to convert it into a different data type. Okay, okay, so I think this is clear. Yes, so Abhi says so like internally. Okay, so I'll tell you one more thing here. Okay, now how does exactly SQL execute a query? Okay, so um I forgot that one term. Okay, what was that? Hmm, compiler is fine. There is okay. So generally, right, whenever you execute a query, there are a few different things that internally happens. Okay, the first thing is there is a compiler that will compile your code. Now, compiling, there are two things. There is a compiling of the code and the running of the code. Now, when you compile a code, right, the first thing that SQL is going to do is it's going to basically check for the syntax in your query. It's going to check if the syntax is right, and as part of the syntax, there are a few different checks that will be done. First of all, it will check if the table that you're using is actually a valid table. Then it will check if the columns that you're using from that table, if that column names are actually existing. Then it will check if any functions or anything that you're using in the query, does that function exist? If that function exists, is your query following the rules that is defined for that function? Okay, so one of the rules that is defined for this round function is that your first argument cannot be a double precision. If it is a double precision, then your second argument cannot be an integer. Okay, there are certain rules. So your compiler is going to verify for these rules. If all the rules and if all the syntax and everything is right, only then it will pass it to the next stage to actually execute the query. And when the query gets executed, that is when it goes to the database and fetches the data. Okay, so internally this process happens, and that is why compiler is going to throw an error if you are failing in any of the checks. Okay, so that's what is happening. Now let's move on to the second query. I hope this query is clear. Now, one more thing. I will be taking a dedicated session probably next week where I will be covering all of these functions. Okay. So, cast function, round function, to date functions, date format functions, substring, in string, position functions, and there are many functions. There are actually hundreds and thousands of functions. I cannot cover every function, but I'll take the most important functions which we generally use every single day. Okay. And then I will give you alternate functions for all the four RDBMS. I'll try to give it in an Excel file if possible, so that not only for the class, even in future, if you want, you can refer to that file. Okay, so I'll try to do a class on that next week. Okay, You can create your own functions as well, and that is called as user defined functions. I will be covering user defined functions in the future, in a future class. Okay. Okay. So let's go on to the next question. Okay. The next question that I have is, uh, okay, so find the total number of, I think most of you guys can write this query. Can you guys write this query and share it? I'll give you 1 minute, okay? So I think in 1 minute you should be able to solve this query. Find the total number of orders per each day. Sort the data based on highest orders. Give me the entire query, like anyone. So now the time is 54, 7:54 for me. I'll just wait for 7:55. Okay. So let's see in 1 minute who can solve this problem. So Swati, select count of one. Your idea is correct, but can you complete the query? Select star from sales order. Select star from sales order. Will it work? Okay. I'm hoping you will share the query. So until then, I'll write my query here. Okay. So select total number of orders per each day. Sort the data with highest order. Okay. So group by date. Okay. So number of orders per each day. So if I need to find the number of orders, I know that number of orders is present in my sales order table, right? Okay, so I got one complete query from Digital Tech Connect, and that is, so I'm going to just copy that query, whatever he shared. Okay, so I'll copy this and let's see if his query works. Okay, so this is what Digital Tech Connect has shared, and he has this many things. Now, so it's telling select order date, count of one as number of orders, and then group by order date, order by two descending. Okay, so I think this query is correct. Okay, so what we were supposed to do was, so I'm just going to maybe remove my code here. Okay, we need to find a total number of orders. So whenever you need to find a total number of orders, this means we need to go into the orders table. So this is my orders table as already which I have queried here, right? And each record in this orders table will represent one order, right? So if I want to find a total number of orders, I just need to count the total number of records, right? If I just count the total number of records, I'll get the total number of orders. But I'm telling we need to find a total number of orders for each day. Okay. Now this is the important thing. For each day, we need to find the total number of records. So how do I find the record for each day? We have something called as an order date. Okay, and this basically is having the data for each day. So you might have some orders, multiple orders for the same day, right? In that case, if you segregate the data for each date, then you count the number of records, you will get for each date how many records were corresponding, and that is actually the number of orders. Okay, and then this order by two, we'll come to that a little later. Okay, first let's execute this, and you can see that I'm getting 252 records. And now you can see that on 30th June 2004, there are 7 orders. And then 3rd December 2004, there are 9 orders, and so on and so forth. Okay. But additionally, in the query, they are telling we need to sort the data based on highest orders. Okay. So highest orders means this second column, right? So this is basically, I need to sort the data based on highest order means I need to order by this second column. Okay. Now, if I just do order by two, by default the order by will always sort the data in ascending order, but since I wanted it to sort in the descending order, because I need to sort the data with the highest order, so the highest order should be on the top, so I do it by descending order. And now if I execute this, I'm getting my final output. So looks like on 14 November 2003, this is where when there was the highest number of orders. Okay, now this order by two is optional. So instead of order by two, I can also specify the column name. Okay, so here it is count of one. So I think, specify this count of one also, or I think I can also specify the alias that I have given. So I can also specify this number of orders. Okay. So if I execute this, it works. So, okay. So basically, you can sort the, whenever you're doing an order by, you can either specify the position of the column in your select clause. So this two is basically the position of the column. So this is position one, this column, this is position two. Let's say if I had put a third column here, then that would be in the position three. Okay, so this number here is basically the position of the column in that, in the select clause. Okay, and then here you can basically put your column name, or if you have given alias for your column, then you can give the alias name as well. So there's three different ways you can specify the order by clause. Okay, so I hope that is clear. Okay, so Olufemi gives a suggestion here that we can use or partition by count and total number of orders per day. And the thing is, yes, you can use it. Okay, but if you're using partition by, then we need to use window functions, and I have not yet come to window functions. So all of these queries we can solve it using window functions as well, but I will come to window functions next week. Okay, so for now let's try to solve it in group by. But as I always say, you can always solve a problem in multiple different ways. Okay, once we cover every different concept, then you will realize it yourself that a particular query could be solved in so many different ways. Group by should be always above order by. Yes, order by should always be at the end. Okay, your query should always end with, if you have a limit, it should end with the limit, or if you have order by, then it should end with the order by. Okay, so let's move on to the third one. And okay, so third question, any questions, if you have, you put it in the Q&A tab. Okay, I'll try to answer that, but I also see some of your questions are already being answered by some other learners, so that is fantastic. If you still have some open questions, you can put it in the Q&A tab. Okay, now let's try to solve this problem. Let's see who can solve this problem first. Okay, did already someone share the answer for this? Okay, so like the query given by Harsha, I think that one also will work. Instead of count of one, he's using the column name, and I have already explained you the difference between count of one, count of column name, and count of star. Okay, can you show sales table, please? Yes. Okay, I'll show you the sales table. So this is my sales table, and this is my third query. I want to see who would be the first one or two person who is going to solve this problem. Okay, it's not mandatory that you have to solve. If you're not able to solve it, no problem. I will solve. I'll solve and explain it. But let's see who is grasping the concepts fast. Okay, display the total sales figure for each quarter. So we need to display the total sales figure for each quarter. Represent each quarter with their respective period. Okay, who can solve this? I if you want to share the concepts, okay, you can tell me what are the concepts that we'll need to use to solve this problem. That's fine. And if you can solve the entire query and paste it, that is also good. Okay, what concept do we need to? You can define quarter as 3 months. Okay, select date part, quarter, date, quarter, sum, sales. Okay, so anyone else? Shiva has given one query, so I'm going to copy Shiva's query here. Okay, sum of sales. So I'll put Shiva's query here, and let's wait for some other solutions from you guys. So let me take some solution from you guys, because several different ways to solve this problem. Select sum of sales from. Okay, Jay, I don't think so. Your solution is going to actually satisfy this problem. Query should have year, 3 months in a year, then sum of sales. Okay, that's fine. Murali, select sum of sales from sales. Akhil, I don't think so that works. Select sum of sales quarter ID by Kashish. I think there is a syntax problem in your query. Select sum of sales from sales order group by. Swati, I don't think so your query is going to satisfy this question. Each quarter per year. You read the question if you want multiple times. So display the total sales figure for each quarter. Okay, first of all, you need to understand what does it mean by quarter. Okay, in a year, how many quarters do we have? We have 4 quarters, right? So generally, Jan to March is quarter one, April to June is quarter two, July to September is quarter three, and October to December is quarter four, right? This is the basic understanding that we have. So we need to display the total sales figure for each quarter. So we need to basically find the total sale that has happened in each quarter, and they have not told us to specify which year, so we don't have to bother about the year. Okay, we are only interested in the quarter. Okay, and then they have told each quarter should be represented with their respective period. Okay, so when there's a respective period, it should be clear which quarter it is: Jan to March, and April to June, and etc. Okay, so is anyone able to solve this problem? Anyone here? Okay, so Krishna Veni says case statement. Okay, that's good. We need to use case statement. We can use case statement in one of the solution. Okay, anyone else here? Select quarter. Select some. Okay, so let's see if Shiva's solution here works. Okay, first of all, there is a big syntax problem because there is no from clause at all. Your select query will not work without a from clause in this case. Okay, because you need to fetch the data from a table, right? I'm not familiar with this function. That is why I took it. I want to see if this function actually works. Okay, so I'm just going to add the from table. So that is sales order, and let's see if this works. Does not work. Quarter does not exist. So I think what is the column name here for quarter? It is qtrid. So let's put qtrid, qtr underscore id. Okay, qtrid and this qtrid, and let's run date. Okay, so I think this function probably does not work. There are actually a lot of functions, and of course, I am not familiar with every single inbuilt functions. So I'm not. Maybe if someone can use some similar function and solve it, then share me the entire query. For now, I'll try to give you my solution. Okay. So okay, anyone else able to solve it? So I see one big query given by Digital Tech Connect. So I'm just going to copy his query and let me paste it here, and let's see if this query works. Okay, case when is okay, and then you are again using a subquery here. Why do we need a subquery here? Hmm, okay, fine. So this is the solution given by Digital Tech Connect. So I'm going to keep this solution at the end. I'll show, maybe we'll run it later. Okay, I'll try to solve it myself first. Okay, and then we will see if my solution is same as what Digital Tech Connect has given. Okay, so let's try to solve it from step by step. How do you start? How do you start thinking when you have to solve a problem like this? So display the total sales figure for each quarter. Okay, so first of all, select from where. Okay, and here we need to do a sales order because I know it has to be from sales order, and we need to find a total sales figure. So when I say total sales figure, looks like the function that I need to use is sum, and the column is sales, right? So I can then give an alias for this, like let's say total sales. Okay, so that's fine, but we need to find a total sales for each quarter. Now where is the quarter? So if I go into my sales order table, I can find a quarter in two different ways. One way of finding the quarter in this particular case is I can go to my order date column. Okay. In order date column, I have this month, right? I can fetch the month, and then I can see if this month is lying between Jan to March, then it is quarter one. And then I can do that for every other month. Okay. That's one way of doing it. Okay. But an easier way of doing it in this particular query is by using the already given quarter column, right? There's a quarter ID column given here, and you can see the values are always 1, 2, 3, or 4 because there can only be 4 quarters in a year, right? So instead of we calculating the quarter using the order date column, we can straight away use the quarter that is already given here, right? So let's try to do that. And this is very important thing. Whenever you're going to an interview, you might be given a query and you might think that you need to do certain thing and you need to derive it from a column, and you might be able to derive it, but the interviewer might be thinking, oh, this guy did it, he did it correctly, but there was a more simpler way because that whatever derivation he has done from a column, that value was already present in another column, so why not use that column straight away? Okay, so this sometimes will be a tricky thing that the interviewer wants to know, are you actually looking at the table or not? Do you actually understand what the table has or not? Okay, so that's the reason we should be using a simpler approach here, that is the quarter ID. So what I'm going to do is, we need to find the total sales for each quarter. So looks like we don't have to put a filter here, but I can put a group by. So I can say QTR ID, group by QTR ID, and I can put that QTR ID here. Okay, and then represent. So this second part we'll do later. Now let's just run this, and you can see that I have got the output. Very simple, right? So it looks like for quarter one, the total sales is what is this? 2,350,000 something. Here it is 1.7 million. Here it is for quarter four, it is some 3 million and something else here. Okay, so that's fine. But the second part of the query is, they have told us to represent each quarter with their respective period. So 1, 2, 3, 4 may not be very clear for everyone. So we need to basically represent each of this quarter with their corresponding months, right? So if I have to do that, one way of doing it is by using the case statement, right? Whenever you want to uh, display some other values based on certain value in your column, then this is where you can use a case statement. So what I am just going to do is, I'm just going to say case when quarter ID equal to 1. Then whenever the quarter ID is 1, instead of displaying 1, I want it to display something else. So what I want it to display is, let's say I want it to display Jan, uh, Jan to, or I'll just say Jan to March. Okay, I will not leave space, Jan to March. Okay, and then I'll again copy the same thing, and I'll say when quarter ID is 2, I want it to display like April, April to June, right? And then for 3 I do again, and 4 I'll do again. So for when the quarter ID is 3, it's going to be July till I think September, and then the quarter ID is 4, it's going to be October to December, right? So instead of 1, 2, 3, 4 displaying here, now these values will get displayed. Okay, whenever, so if it is 1, it gets displayed Jan to March. If it is 2, it will display this, and 3, and here it should be 4. Okay, and then I'll also put an else condition here, telling that else, I'll just say invalid quarter. Okay, so let's say if this column has anything other than 1, 2, 3, 4, then it is an invalid quarter. So I'll display it like invalid quarter. Okay, and then I need to end the case. So I'll say end, and I'll give a column name for this. So I'll say quarter. Okay, so I think that's all. And now if I run this, now you can see that I'm getting the output, and here there are a lot of decimal points. So again, I'll use the round. So I'll say I'll convert this into decimal. Okay, and then I will say round of, okay, same thing what I did previously. And now if I run this, now you can see I'm getting the data clearly, right? So this is one way of solving this problem. You can solve it in many different ways. I think instead of case, you can use another function called as, another keyword called as decode as well. But we very commonly use case. And now let's see how different was this solution. So all this was okay, but here is telling if it is less than 4, less than 4, less than 13. Okay, so I think you misunderstood quarter ID with month ID. Quarter ID will always be 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not a month ID. And you're telling quarter one, it's better you display like with the month name, right? And then here you are doing quarter ID, you're doing the total sales. Okay, so you did this entire thing in a separate query, then put it into a subquery, and then you wrote a main query. Okay, but it was actually not required. You could do entire thing with just one simple query. Okay. Okay, so I hope this solution is clear. Is it clear, this solution? Can we go on to the fourth one? I think the fourth one is going to be more interesting. So any questions? Okay, no questions. So let's go. We have 3 years of data. Total sales figure each means for results should include year. Uh, in the query, in the question, they did not mention that you need to consider any specific year. They just mentioned the quarter, so they are not bothered about which year it is. Okay. Many times in the sales figure, we want to know which is the quarter, which is the most profitable quarter for a company, right? And it's not specific to a year, because a company may be running from the last 10 years. So they want to know in the last 10 years which quarter is the most profitable. So during that quarter, they would want to maybe release more products, okay, or provide more offers. Okay, so This is the kind of analysis we would do in that case. Okay, so let's go on to the fourth one, and this is the question. So find how many cars, motorcycles, trains, and ships are available. Okay, and they are telling uh, in the inventory. So I'll tell in available in the inventory. Treat all type of cars as just cars. Okay. Can anyone solve this problem? First of all, which table should I consider in order to solve this problem? Anyone? Products. Okay. So Adam tells products, and that is correct. So I'm going to query the products table here. You can see it here. Okay. And let's read the question once again now. Okay. So they're telling identify how many cars, motorcycle, trains, and ships. Only these four type of vehicles. Okay. How many of these are present in the inventory? Okay. So when they say inventory, you need to interpret what that means. Okay. And then treat all type of cars as just cars. Okay. Why are they telling this? Because you can see here we have classic cars, and then we have vintage cars, and there may be some others. Okay, looks like there may be different type of cars, but they want all of those cars to be just treated like cars. Okay, and then they want to know how many cars are present, how many motorcycles are present, how many trains are present, how many ships are present in the inventory. Okay, can you write a query to solve this? There are multiple ways of solving this query. Okay, can anyone give me a solution? Let's see who can give me a solution for this. Uh, Many people here, okay, I think Krishna Veni has told you can use the wildcard character by using like, and yes, you can do that. Can you give me the entire query? How do you count that? And how do you display that? So my final output should be like cars, this much number, motorcycle, this much number, trains, this much number, ships, this much number. So I should only have four records in my final output. So how do I write this query? Do you want to know them separately? I didn't get you, Jay. Okay, so I'll just give you a minute. Let's see who can solve it. Okay, Deepraj gives product line, count of product line from products. Okay, Deepraj, your query is going to. Okay, then you send group by one. Okay, fine. You can use case statement. Okay, fine. Yes, you can use case statement and then group by. Okay, so Swati also is right. Okay, but can you write the query? Okay, so Adam gives a query. I'm just going to copy the query given by Adam. Okay, so let's see if Adam's query is right. Uh, and then I'll also give you my solution. Okay, so let's copy A. This is for the previous one, is it? Uh, okay, so this was for the previous one. So now Abai, okay, so Abai has given and Adam has given. So I'll copy both of them's query. So let's see whose query is correct. Okay. Um, okay, so this is from Adam, and then I saw one query from Abhay. So I'll copy Abhay's query here. Okay, and then I saw one query from Pawan, and I saw one query from him. Okay, so other queries I am seeing here, but I think they are not going to return the correct output. So Abdi Fita, I don't think so. Your query is going to work. Okay, you tell me why it's not going to result that it's not going to provide the correct result. Okay, so I have taken these four queries. Let's see which query is correct. Okay, so okay, before even I say which query is correct, let's do one thing like previous time. I'll give you my solution, and then I will try to see out of these four queries whose query was correct. Okay, or was it same like my query? So let's try to solve this. Let's try to again start thinking from the scratch. How do you start solving? Okay, identify how many cars, motorcycle, trains, and ships are available in an inventory. So the very first thing that we need to do is we have straight away been given a filter condition. Our filter condition is we are only interested in those records where the vehicle is any one of these four, right? So I can just say select from, and this time I will have a where condition. Okay, and from which table, because all of this vehicle information is present only in my products table, so I'm going to use products. Okay, and they are telling identify how many. Okay, so how many means basically we need, because in the products table each record here represents one vehicle. So if I want to find how many vehicles, I just need to do a count of one. So looks like I need to do a count of one. Okay, count of one or count of column name, up to you. I'll use count of one for now. Okay, table is products, and my filter condition. My filter condition is, you can see here all these trucks, planes, everything is present under this product line column. So I can just say product line in uh, these four type of vehicles, right? So I'm just going to copy it here. Okay, and I think cars, they have told, so cars. Okay, and then motorcycles. So I hope the spelling is correct. Motorcycles, and then trains. Okay, and then finally, it's not and, I need to separate multiple values with a comma, then ships, right? So this is my filter condition, these four values. The problem is I don't have any record in the product line table where I have cars. So it's either classic cars or it is vintage cars. So in order to better understand that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a distinct. So I'll say select distinct of product line from products table. Okay, let's see how many type of vehicles we have. So we have 7 type of vehicle, and we have classic cars, trains, planes, and vintage cars. So there are two different types of cars. So one is the classic car. So I'm going to put it here. And then I have another type of car, that is this one, vintage car, right? So this is vintage. Okay. In the query, they have told us to consider only cars. Okay. But here I have put two type of cars because we don't have something called as cars. We have these two type of cars. So I have put all of them filter. Okay. So that's the first part. The next thing is I need to count the number of vehicles based on each of these car, right? In that case, again, the simple thing is I need to use a group by. So I'll say group by, and I need to group by the product line, right? And here I can say product line as well when displaying. And now if I execute this, I'm getting the output. Okay, I'm getting the output, but this output is not exactly what I want. Okay, why? Because I'm getting two records for cars. I have one record for classic car. I have one record for vintage cars. Now, what I need to do is I need to merge them together. I need to merge them together and display them as one record, right? So how can I do that? Now, one way of doing that is by using the case statement. Okay, so what I can do is, okay, so one way is I can use the case statement, and then I can solve it. And one more way is I can use a subquery. Okay, now details about subqueries I'll come to the next class, but for this particular problem, I'll give you one solution here. Okay, so what I can do is I'll keep this query as it is, and then I will, yeah, so I will do, okay, so in my products table. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'll copy this query, I'll paste it here. Okay, and whenever I'm taking the data from the products table, even before that data comes into my main query, I will do this conversion. So whenever it is classic cars and vintage cars, I want it to be treated like cars. So what I can do is I can just tell select from products. Okay, and I'll tell where, okay, so I'll keep it like this. Okay, I'll maybe put that this entire thing, and here I'll tell case when, okay, so case when it is product line is equal to this. Okay, then I want it to be treated like cars. Okay, or and not only for product classic cars, but I also want the same to be treated for vintage cars also. Okay, so inside the parenthesis these two. Okay, and since I have multiple values here, I cannot use equal to, I need to use the in clause. Okay, so I use so whenever the product line is classic cars or vintage cars, then I want to display it like cars. Okay, and otherwise, okay, else I want to treat the entire product line column. Okay, and then I can just tell and this will be my product line. Okay, so this I'll say my product line. Okay, so if I just execute this, what is happening is you can see here I have not applied any group by, I am not doing any count, I am just doing the very first step, that is I'm just converting all the different type of cars that are present in this table into just cars. So now, previously in the products table, we had classic cars, vintage cars, but now you can see it's all printing like cars. Okay, so this is my initial data. Now from this data, I can then do my group by. So what I can then do is, I can then say select count of 1. Okay, and in my from clause, I can put this entire thing. So this entire query that I have written, right, I can put this inside here, and I can treat this entire thing as a table. Okay, so this whole concept is called as a subquery. Now subquery is basically whenever you are using a query inside a query, it is called as a subquery. Okay, so this entire query that I have wrote here, which is basically converting classic cars and vintage cars into normal cars, is basically a subquery, and SQL is going to treat this entire thing like a something like a new table. Okay, because I'm putting it inside the from clause. So inside your from clause, you can actually mention a table, or you can mention a separate SQL query itself. Okay, so this is what I have done, and then I'm going to follow the same thing that I have done here. So I'll do a group by product line. Okay, and then here I'll again print the product line. Okay, and I can run this. This works. I'm getting an error because in PostgreSQL, whenever you're using a subquery, I need to give an alias for that. So I'm going to give an alias for the subquery like X. And now you can see that it's working fine. And I'm getting trains. There are 3 trains. There are 13 motorcycles. There are 61 cars and 9 ships. Okay, this is fine. So this one, I'm going to say like solution 1. Okay, but there is a better way of solving this problem. Okay, now I hope this is clear. I hope you understand how I have done that. I just wrote a subquery. Okay, I'll explain in detail about subquery in the next class. But for now, remember that whenever you are using a SQL query inside another SQL query, that is what is called a subquery. Okay, here I wrote a query, and the only thing that I'm doing here is whenever it is classic cars and vintage cars, I'm displaying it like cars, and for all other cases, I'm treating whatever I get from product line. Okay, and here I'm not putting every single when condition for each type of cards. Why? Because I have put a filter condition here saying that I know that the only 5 type of cars vehicles that can come into this query is these 5 types I have mentioned. Okay, so for these 2 types I have already handled it in my first when condition. For all other type of product line, it is always going to be these 3. So whenever it is these 3, I don't need to do any special handling. I can treat it as they are. Okay, and that is why I'm just taking the product line. Okay, so I hope this solution is clear. Okay, and I told you there is a better way of solving this problem, and the better way of solving this problem was I wrote this query here, right? So I'll remove this. Okay, so I'll just move this. So I'll tell this is my solution 2. Okay, and I'll copy the same query that I wrote previously. Now you can see here I'm getting the output for exactly what I want. The only difference in this output is classic cars and vintage cars are having separate records. Now I need to merge them together. The easiest way of doing that is by using a case statement right here in the query. Okay, so I don't need to use a subquery, etc. So how I can do that is I can just tell this basically this same case statement that I have written here. I can put that case statement here. Okay, so I did not do anything special. I just put that case statement here. Okay, so what I'm doing is case when product line is this and this, I want it to display like cars, and if I have it like else, I want to display it like product line. Okay, now before I complete this query, I want to ask a question. Will this query work? First of all, will this query work? Is it going to throw me an error, or will it not throw an error, but will the output be correct? Anyone? It works. Okay, but will the output be correct? Okay, so Abdi Fita is telling the output will have multiple records for cars, and that is correct. Why? What happened was you are getting what I did was when displaying, I displayed classic cars and vintage cars both as cars, right? But it's still not merging the 2 columns. So how do I merge these 2 columns now? Okay, so what I basically need to do is whatever I have given here in my select clause, if I just copy that and put it into my group by clause, then it's going to merge the columns. Why? Because then the group by will happen exactly based on the values that is returned from my case. from my case, I'll always get only four type of cars. It is going to be cars, four type of vehicles. So it's going to be cars, trains, motorcycles, and ships. Okay. So it's going to create a group for each unique value that is present here. So the unique values present here is only these four. So only four records will get written. So if I execute this, I'm getting an error because in group by I don't need to give an alias for the column. So I'll remove that. And now I'll run this. And now you can see I'm getting the output. Okay. So the output is the same. So trains 3, motorcycles 13, cars 61, ships 9. And if I execute the previous solution, it's also the same. Okay. So two different solutions. So what this means is inside your group by clause, also you can use the case statement. Okay. So I hope this is clear. I think this is self-explanatory, right? If it is not clear, ask me. But before I look into any questions, right, I want to see the solution given by these four. So let's look at the solution one by one, okay? So let's look at Adam's solution. I'll just try to execute this, and I'm getting the output. And I'm getting the output, but I'm getting for cars 37. It should have been 61. And I'm only getting classic cars. It should display like cars. So looks like I think he did not consider vintage cars. Uh, yes. So I think everything he did fine, but only thing he did not consider the other type of cars, vintage cars, right? So that's why this solution will not work, Adam. I hope you understand why. Now let's look at Abhay's solution and let's execute this. Abhay's solution, I'm getting some, okay, so product line, there is a typo. So let's try to fix the typo. So it is not product line, it's product underscore line. Let's execute. Again, there is an error. Line. Where is line? Okay, so group by this one. Okay, so group by this is product line, and now let's execute. Okay, so I executed the solution from Abhay, but I'm getting basically no records. And why am I getting no records? So product line count of one, this one, product line this, or this. Okay, I think because you in my product table, what is the case? So all these values that you give, they are all case sensitive. You can see cars, the C is in uppercase, right? So let's do that. So let's do this in uppercase. Let's put M in uppercase. Let's put T in uppercase. And now let's try to run this. And you're getting the output, but the only problem with this is, again, the output is wrong. You're getting classic cars and vintage cars. What is missing? The ships is missing, right? Okay, so first of all, you have missed the ships. That's fine. But then classic cars and vintage cars, you're getting two different records. So this solution also will not work. What about Pawan? So let's see Pawan's solution. So Pawan's solution is, okay, so group by this. Looks very similar to Abhay's solution. So product line this one, upper of this. Okay, he has already used the upper function. So he then you basically it will convert this entire thing into the uppercase. And then you have told motorcycles, trains, and ships, and here cars. I think your output is going to be similar to Abhay. Okay, but you have also considered ships. So again, this solution is wrong because you have two records for cars, right? Now let's finally look at what Haim has given. Okay, so Haim has used the case statement. So let's see if this works. Okay, so let's execute this. And what's happening? Okay, so Haim's solution looks the most closest to the correct one. Okay, so Haim, the solution is almost correct. The only problem is you're getting the data for all type of vehicles, I think, right? So you're getting it for trucks, buses, and planes and everything. You just needed to put a filter condition. So the only thing that Haim missed was this filter condition. Other than that, I think his solution uh, is correct. And here I have actually not used the like, I have used the in clause, but Haim has used the like, the wildcard character to match all the cars. Okay, so it's pretty good. So out of the four solutions, I would say this solution from Haim is pretty correct. Okay, except I would say pretty correct because filter condition is missed. Okay, so I hope all of this is clear. Did you understand this particular problem? If yes, then I'll go to the next one. And what's the time? So before I go to the next one, I'll just look at, okay, maybe I'll look at the questions a little later. I have one problem for you, and I want you guys to solve it. Okay. Uh, until so I'm going to give you maybe 5 minutes to solve this problem. You share with me your solution. Till then, I will look at the Q&A tab. Okay. So the question is this one, and I'm going to fetch the data from sorry, from the products table, right? And I'm going to give you my solution that I have given. So whatever my solution one I have given, I'll show it to you. So if you want, you can have a look at this. Okay, 1 minute. This is solution one, and my question is this one. Okay, so I'm going to give you 5 minutes till I look at all the Q&A questions. Can you solve this problem? So this is my problem. Identify the vehicles in the inventory which are short in number. Okay, shortage of vehicle is considered when there are less than 10 vehicles. Okay, so give me a query for this particular problem. Let's see who can solve this. Till then, I'll just look at all the questions. Okay, so I think there are too many chats here, so I'll just go into the Q&A tab. So only 7 questions here, so let's look into that. Till then, try to solve it. Anyone? Can we go over the order of operations for the following? From, join, where, group by, order by, having, select. Sure, we'll go into the order by. So I think in the last class that I told, only the confusion was between whether select comes first or join comes first, right? If I'm not wrong, maybe I did not consider join. So I'll come to that a little later, him. Okay, maybe at the end of the class. Are you going to explain table relationships, one to one to many to many? Uh, we'll look into that. Okay, because generally you should understand the table relationships when we look at multiple joints or different type of joints. Okay, uh, but okay, so I think I have some cases where you can do this kind of joints. So Divya, I'll note your point. Okay, because I need a specific data set where I can explain this concept. So I'll do a note of your question. So 1 minute. So this question is okay, so question from Divya on session 8, right? And then this is a question from him. So question from him on session 8 regarding the order of execution. So I'll just make a note of your questions, because if I don't get time to answer, I'll try to answer it in the next class. Okay. Um, if I don't know the answer, I'll try to look for the answer and share it within the next class. So this is two questions that I'll come later. What is two in our, okay, this Dikshit, I think I already explained. I hope that is clear. Select product line, count of one, and product ID, this one, product ID like this, group by this. Can I use this? Okay. So product line, from where product line is this. Okay, so Harsha, your query that you have given here, right? It's not going to work. The reason why it's not going to work is you have an AND operator, okay? And in your first condition, you're checking um, where the product ID is either motorcycle, train, or ships, okay? And then again, you're having another condition telling that product ID has to have cars, okay? So SQL is going to look for a record where the product ID is going to have both these conditions, and that's never going to happen, right? You do not have a data like that. So this query will probably return 0 records. Do we create column in SQL with segregated space like employee? No. Okay, you ideally you should not create with a space. Okay, but let's see if it is allowed. Okay, because whenever you're creating a column name, right, if you give double quotes in within the column name or within the table name, then whatever you have given is generally accepted, but there are certain limitations. Let's do one thing. I'm going to until people are solving this particular query, let's just see if that create table works. Okay, so I too don't remember if that works, so I'll just say create table test. Okay, and I'll say name. uh, I'll say first name. Okay, so first name. Okay, and I'll say this is varchar of 20, and let's see if this works. Create table test. So this is not working because I have given space, but this should create table test. What is the mistake? Okay, parenthesis. So now let's give a space and let's see if that works. Okay, so it is working. So this one looks like whatever you give inside if you are giving a column name, but if it is given within the double quotes, then it is working. But to be frank, this is not a good practice. Do not create a column name with spaces. Okay. Generally, we use this double quotes when we want to make sure that the column names are case sensitive. Okay. So if you give F in capital, then when you're trying to refer to this column, you need to make it case sensitive. Okay. But not a good practice, but I think you can do this. It's allowed. Okay. So that's this. Put it here. Allowed in SQL, but not recommended. Okay. Do not have do not have space in your column name. Okay, just a point to remember. Okay, so did everyone solve this problem? Let me query this products table again and show you the question. Okay, so I'll go into the next problem. Do we create a column with SQL? Okay, why my code is not working? Which code? Which code, Abhi? Select product name, case when, product name, vintage, cards, product line, this. Okay, so you're doing count of one from case when, product line in this vintage car and this, then cars, else product line, end as this, from products where product line in classic car, this one, group by new product line. I think your query should work. Is your query giving error? Your query looks fine. Let's paste it here. From a subquery here, case when, then else. Where is this query not working? Product line does not exist. Okay, so it's not working because you're using the subquery here, and your subquery, the column name that you have given is new product line. So I think that's it. Now it works. So just a typo in your column name. Okay. Uh, okay, so again, I'll query this. I hope this is clear. Okay, so we do not need to use case statement in group by if we alias column product line as this originally, then grouping by B. Okay, we'll try that, Akhil. So let's see in the group by if the case, if the alias will work or not. Okay, we'll explain union all in the upcoming class. Okay, fantastic, Dikshit. Regarding this union all, right, let's come to that now. Okay, because this is what I wanted to cover next. Uh, okay, now but before that, one thing that was suggested by Akhil, right? What was my solution? My solution was this one, not this one. Where was my solution? Okay, solution 2. Okay, so in this solution, let's see if I copy the same thing here and put it here. And now instead of mentioning the full case statement, will this alias work? Okay, let's see if it works. To be frank, I am not sure. Okay, and because the alias and the column name are the same, so let's try to give a different name here. So let's say new product line. Okay, and now let's try to give that name. Let's see if it works. Okay, so it works. So the same thing in group by and order by, we can use that entire whatever column you have given, or you can give the alias. Okay, but the only thing is I'm not sure if this works in all the other RDBMS in PostgreSQL, because PostgreSQL is a pretty new RDBMS. There are a lot of new features that have been added, a lot of things. uh, there are a lot of enhancements that have been done to the traditional database, how databases work. So all these things, I'm not sure if it works in other RDBMS as well. You can just try it out. Okay, now there is a now I will come to the fifth question, but before that, I just want to see if anyone solved the problem. So has anyone solved the question number 5? Okay, so I see there are a lot of solutions given. From where did it start actually? I think there should be a marker for me to know where was I. Okay, uh, so I think you guys have, okay, Suraya said you need to use count, and many of you have given the solution. Okay, so too many solutions. I may not be able to look at all that, but I will try to share my solution here. But before I just share the solution for question 5, right, I want to go back to question 4, okay, because there is a third way of solving that problem. And can anyone tell me what would be the third way of solving this uh, fourth problem? There's another way of solving this problem. Anyone? Any idea? What is that particular concept in SQL we can use to solve this fourth problem? Use a CT. Yes, we can do that. It's something similar to subquery, right? But forget about CTE, forget about partition by. There's a simple command in SQL we can use to solve this problem. Anyone? The same problem, another solution. Okay, so Jay says union, and that is correct. Okay, we can solve the same problem by using the union command. Okay, union operator. So let's see how to do that. So where were we? We are okay. So I'm going to take my this is my solution, right? Solution 2, and I'll just write. So I'll just put a comment here telling that solution from learners. Okay, and here I'll tell solution 3. Okay, so this is my third solution for the same problem. We need to find the total number of vehicles, and only these 4 type of vehicles we need to consider, right? So I can just tell select product line. So product line count of 1 from products where I'll put this filter condition. Okay, and in this case I'll ignore these 2 type of product. I'll ignore the cars for now. I will only consider the other 3 types of products. So and then I'll just say group by product line. Okay, and if I execute this, yeah, you can see that I'm getting the correct output. The only thing is I have not included cars. Okay, now in order to include cars, what I can do is I can use an union operator, and I can write another query, separate query for cars. So I have written a separate query for these 3 type of vehicles. Then I can write a separate query for cars, and then I can merge those 2 queries together by using the union operator. Okay, so how I can do that is I'll copy this, okay, and I'll paste it here, but this time I'll only include these 2 vehicles. Okay, so these 2 vehicles, I'll put it here. Okay, and here I can just tell um, okay, and here what I can just do is, because I only want to know the count for these 2 vehicles, and I need to treat both these type of vehicles just like cars. What I can do is I will not use the group by at all. Okay, I'll just put a filter condition, and then I'll just use the count. Okay, and here I'll just hard code a value saying that this is cars. Okay, and I'll call it like as product line. Okay, and if I execute this, you can see that I'm not using the group by here. I'm just using the count. And I told you whenever uh, you can use the aggregate functions without the group by. Okay. Only thing is, if you're using aggregate functions without the group by, you cannot specify any columns here. Okay. Now this column name may be very confusing, so I'll just say prod line. Okay. Or I'll just give an alias like prod, so you don't confuse it with the table column name. Okay. And if I execute this, it works fine. So what I'm doing is I'm going to the products table. I'm taking all the records where the value is either classic cars or vintage cars, and then I'm just doing a count. So it's going to count all the records which is written from this 2 lines. Okay, that will be 61, and then I'm just hard coding a value here telling that this is all my cars. Okay, so I have got the value for cars here. I've got the value for all the other 3 vehicles here, and then I can just do an union here. Okay, and I can run this, and now you can see I'm still getting the same output. So cars 61, ships 9, trains 3, and Mercedes motorcycles 13. Okay, so what did this union do? Union is basically an operator that you can use whenever you want to combine 2 SQL queries. Okay, two or more SQL queries. Okay, if I want to combine three SQL queries, I can put another union here, and then I can write another SQL query here. That will work. Okay, but there are certain rules that you need to follow. The rules are, whatever two queries that you have used on the top of union and on the below of union, they need to have same number of columns. The first thing is, the number of columns has to be same. So here you can see I have two columns here, I have two columns here. Okay, so that's the first rule. The second rule is, the data type has to match. The data type in both these columns, whatever columns you have used, has to match. Okay, if they belong to different data types, then it's not going to work. Okay, so I think these are the two important rules. And yeah, so I think if you follow this, then probably you can use union. Okay, now similar to union, there is another operator called as union all. Okay, now is there anyone who can tell me the difference between union and union all? Anyone? Duplicates. What duplicates? What does union do and what does union all do? What is the difference between these two? Okay, correct. So Pawan is correct there. The thing is, what union does is, if there are duplicate records, then union will union will always do two things. First, union will do a union all, then it will do a distinct. Okay, meaning that if the result that is written from this query and the result that is written from this query, if there are duplicate records, then union will exclude the duplicate records. It is only going to display the distinct values, okay, unique values. Whereas if I use distinct union all, as the name tells, it's going to return everything, all. It's going to return everything, even duplicate values will get returned. Okay, so in the simplest of terms, if I have to explain this or the difference between this, I can just tell select let's say Mohan. Okay, and this, since it's a hard coded value, I don't need to use a from clause because I'm not fetching it from any table. Okay, uh, and let's say this is going to print Mohan, right? And here I'll say two more things. So I'll say union and I'll say union. Okay, and I'll say this is James. Okay, and if I execute this, you can see that even though I have three queries and three queries should have written three records, I'm only getting Mohan and James. Why? Because union is going to uh, it's basically going to not return the duplicate values. Mohan is repeated twice, it's not going to return that. But let's say instead of union, if I use union all, then it would then it will return three records. Why? Because union all will return all the records. This is it. Union is a very simple operator, nothing special. Whenever you need to write a query where you know that the first one part of the query needs to be written separately, the second part of the query needs to be written separately, and there is no way that you can join these two parts together using the SQL join. That is where we use the union operator. If there was an option, if there it was possible for us to join these two queries together, then it is better to use a join keyword. Okay, because then it will be one single query, and SQL, I think, is a better way of writing. But if there is no way that you can join these two separate queries together, then you can, and you still need the data to be presented separately, then you need to use the union operator. Okay, so this is just one example of using union. In future classes, we'll also see some other examples about union. Okay, I hope this is clear. Now let's come back to the solution 5. I think we only have 8 minutes, so I'll just try to show you the solution 5, and then I'm going to end the class, and remaining questions I'm going to give it to you like assignment. Okay, and then you can take it, try to solve it on your own. I'll give you the solution as well in the next class. Okay, for this particular case, question number 5. So I don't need this solution 1. Maybe I think the out of all these three solutions, right, the best solution is the solution 2. Okay, because the query is shorter, we are just using one query, no subquery, no union operator. But the solution 1 and solution 2, we are using two separate queries, right? So the solution 2 is a better approach. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to go into my question number 5, and this one I'll just move it. Okay, um, okay, so this is my question number 5. Identify vehicles in the inventory which are short in number. So basically, they want to know which vehicles are less. Okay, so that maybe they want to order more vehicles so that they can store it in their inventory, okay, or in their showroom. So shortage of vehicles is considered when there are less than 10 vehicles. So they are telling, they have already told the definition of short vehicles, meaning that if a vehicle has less than if there are less than 10 vehicles in the showroom or in the inventory, then they are considered as short in number, right? So there are two things that we need to do in this case. The first thing is, we need to first count the total number of vehicles for each type of vehicle. We need to find how many such vehicles are present in the inventory, right? Or in the this one in yeah, in the inventory. And they have not told which vehicles we need to consider. So they are told identify vehicles in inventory which are short in number. So they have not told us to consider only motorcycles or trains or ships. Basically, they have told us to consider every type of vehicle, right? So what I can just do is, in this case, classic cars and vintage cars also, I don't have to segregate them. So what I can just do is, I'll just say this, that is, select product line count of one, okay, and then I don't need to add this filter condition as well, okay. So, and here I can just say product line, and if I execute this, you can see that I'm getting everything. Classic cars, vintage cars, they're all separate, because in this particular case they are not told us to consider all cars as one, okay. So every vehicle is considered as a unique vehicle, okay. And now you can see that there are 37 classic cars, there are 3 trains, 12 planes remaining in the inventory. Now we need to find only those vehicles who are less than 10 in number. How I can do that? I can just put a having clause here telling that having count of one is less than 10. Count of one is less than 10, okay. And if I execute this, I am getting the output. It is telling trains and ships, there are only 3 trains and ships 9, okay. So this was the solution for your question number 5. Pretty simple, but it's important to understand the question. The question is not straightforward telling you how to do it, and most of the cases, and I find this very common in lead code, okay, also in status scratch, but more often in lead code. In lead code, right, if you look at the basic SQL questions, the the questions are, sometimes the question is very big and the question looks very daunting, okay, but the solution is very very simple, okay. So, and you go to an interview, it can happen to you as well. The interviewer might ask a question and you look at the question, it looks like, man, so many things to do here. But then when you come up with a solution, the solution will be hardly 2 lines. It's going to be very simple, okay. So that's why reading the question is important. Try to read the question, understand the question, and then come up with the solution, and you'll be surprised how simple the solution is, okay. Okay, so I'm going to end the class here. I want to give you some assignments, okay. I'm going to copy some assignments here. Let me copy the assignments, just a minute. So we solved up to 5, right? So I'll give you 4 assignments, okay. So let's say assignments. So this is question number 6, and just a minute. This 7, 8, and 9. Okay, so these are the 4 queries that I expect you to solve. I'm sure everyone will be able to solve this. But if you are stuck, then you can message me in Telegram or ask me in the next class. Okay, so I'm going to end the class. There are 3 more minutes. You can ask me a question for the next 3 minutes. So today I'm going to end the class on time. Okay, previous class I think we extended 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, etc. But today on time. So, any questions you have? I have 3 minutes. If you have any questions, you ask me, or else you can drop off. Okay. So, what is the purpose of Elias if it's not being referenced anywhere? Okay, good question, Tim. This one we used. Where did we use it? We used it here, right? So if I run this query, it works fine. If I remove this X, that is the alias, and if I run it, it fails. And error is subquery in from clause must have an alias. Okay, this is not required in Oracle as far as I know, and I don't think so. This is required in other RDBMS as well. But this is something that is required in PostgreSQL. Okay, whenever you're writing a subquery in PostgreSQL, every subquery needs to have a name. Okay, So this is just a rule from subquery. I don't know why they have that rule, but without a alias for your subquery, your query will not work. Okay. So I will join in that group. May I know the name? Okay, so Ravi, you will find the Telegram group in the class page. Go to the announcement tab in the this particular class page in the Light Hall. I have pasted two links. You can follow any link to join. But let's say if you're having trouble in joining the Telegram group, then you can either message me personally in Telegram. Okay. In Telegram, my username is TechTFQ. So I think you can just search for TechTFQ in Telegram. Then you can message me personally and ask me to add you to the group. Okay, give me the name that you have used to register for the class so that I can verify if you have actually registered, and then I will add you to the group. Okay. Difference between union and full join. Okay, full join is a completely different concept. I will come to full join. I don't know, maybe next class or after that. Okay. When I come to explain full join, okay, so I'll store your question. Okay, there is actually no connection between union and full join. They are two different things, but I'll note your question. I'll explain it when I come to that particular topic. Okay. So there are some unanswered questions which I will answer in the next class. Okay. I'm reading Practical SQL from No Starch Press. Do you have any problem with me asking questions not related to the class in Telegram group? Okay, you can ask me questions about anything, like not only about the book, even from lead code, about status scratch and everything, but um, I will not prioritize those questions. So if there are questions from the class, I'll give more priority for that. But if your question is very interesting, I'll definitely try to answer them. Also depends on how much time I have. So you can ask Tim, but uh, no problem in asking, because if you ask a problem that is coming from a book, from lead code, from status scratch, it also helps others, because others will come to know what sort of questions are available elsewhere, right? And this particular book, Practical SQL from No Starch, it's pretty good actually. I have a book from No Starch. It's a Python book. I think their publication is very good, No Starch. Yeah, so I think even this book is pretty good. I think read pretty good reviews about this book. So if you have questions, you can ask. No problem. Uh, no, not really considered writing a book as of now. What is a book name? So maybe Tim, you can share the entire book name. I think it is Practical SQL, right? I have this book. This, I hope you can see. I'm actually reading this book. I have read it once before, but I'm reading it again because sometime back I had promised that I'm going to make a new Python tutorial on YouTube. Previously, I have made a Python tutorial, but this time I wanted to make it slightly more differently. Okay, so I have read a couple of Python books, so I want to take the best practices from both the books and then make my tutorial. So I'm taking more time to make that tutorial. Okay, but even this book is from No Starch Press. Okay, so I have already read one other book from No Starch Press, that is Automate the Boring Stuff with Python. That was absolutely fantastic, and I know this book also is very good. So I think the SQL book that you are telling also is from No Starch Press. If anyone is looking for a book, I think that generally these books from No Starch Press are actually very good. So I would also recommend that. Okay, so I'm going to end the class today. If I have not answered any questions, try to share it with me in Telegram. Okay. Uh, I need to leave on time today because I have something else to do. Can you share new file with me? Which new file? I'm getting an okay. So I'll just maybe 2-3 minutes. I'll look at if I missed some questions. Bio says I'm getting an error. Insert update on table sales order violates foreign key constraint. Okay, so the error message itself is very clear, telling you what the problem is, right? Bio. The C21 that you're trying to insert is not present in the child table. So have you enclosed this C21 inside the single quotes? Try to see if you have enclosed it inside the single quotes, because it's a varchar, right? And then try to see if this C21 is already present in your customers table under the customer ID column. Uh, how you got cards after select? Please explain the second query. So what do you mean the second query, Suraya? Do you mean the solution to? So Suraya, if you are talking about question 2 with union, okay. So this one here, basically, if you look at this query, right? So I'll tell you in other words, okay, this one. So let's say I don't do anything like this. I just do count of one, okay, and I'll put a command. I'll put a comment. So when I run select count of one from products, what do I get? I get 109. Why? Because there are 109 records in the products table, right? Now let's say if I filter the data based on these two products only, okay. Now if I run, I'll get 61. Why? There are only 61 records where the products are either classic cars or vintage cars, right? Now I know that both these type of vehicles are cars, right? So what I'm doing is I'm just hard coding a value here telling that cars. Okay? Just like that. I can also hard code any different type of values. I can hard code one, okay. I can hard code some other any hard coded value. I can also put something like let's say current date, okay, or whatever. And now if I run this, you can see here this value here is actually coming from the table and this filter condition, but all these values are hard coded values. Okay, I'm just passing whatever I want. Okay, so I can put numbers, varchars, dates, or whatever is hard coded. I can call some functions which will return some values, etc. Okay, what value I'm interested in is this cars. Okay, and I'm going to give this name like something like product line. Okay, so this product line is actually not coming from the table. This is something that I've hard coded because I know all these 61 records are actually cars. Okay, and that is exactly what I have used here. Okay, that's all. So it's just a hard coding of value because I know all these values belong to the car record. Okay, uh, Python will come. I I will do it. I want to just do it. Uh, I want to do it correctly. So taking some time. Please explain the difference between accept and minus. Okay, accept and minus are pretty self-explanatory. So, oh, accept and minus is it? They both should be the same. I think only in some are in some of the RDBMS minus is supported. In some of the other RDBMS accept is supported. So let's look at that with an example. Okay, so I think in PostgreSQL minus is supported, or I don't know, one of them is supported. So let's do one thing. I'll do minus here. Let's see if this works. So minus is not supported, but I think accept is supported. Okay, so let's do this. So you're getting James. Okay. Now, just to make it clear, what is actually accept doing? Accept and minus basically they are the same, but I think in Oracle we can use minus, and in PostgreSQL we can use accept. That's it. But basically, it's just like any record that is present from your upper query will get excluded from your output if it is present in the below query. So I'll remove this second part here. Okay. So when I do Mohan accept Mohan, because Mohan, I found Mohan here, and again if Mohan is present here, it's basically going to subtract that or remove that. Okay. But let's say if I put instead of Mohan, I'll put James. Okay. And now if I run this, okay, now I'll get Mohan. Why? Because Mohan was not present here. Okay. This is not a union. Union will basically take the data from both the query, except will only take the data from the first query, which is not present in the second query. Okay. So let's say I have another thing here. So select James. James. Okay. And I'll say this is union, and this whole thing I'll put it inside my main query here. Okay. If I run this, I'll get James and Mohan. But when I run this entire thing, so I run this except this one, now I'll get only Mohan. Why? Because James was present in my upper query, and that James is also present in my lower query, so that will get excluded. Okay. So you can try it out on your own. These are pretty simple concepts. Just except will any data that is present in the upper query, if that same data present in the lower query, that gets excluded. That is what except does. Okay. Okay, so that's all for today. I'm going to end the class now, and I hope you found this useful. Try to complete the assignments, not only this assignment, but all the previous assignment. In the next class, I think we'll start with subqueries. Okay, so thank you so much, and see you tomorrow. Okay.